arhn.eu.
1997 was a fantastic year for the video game industry. From Fallout and Dungeon Keeper through Final Fantasy VII to Quake 2 and Age of Empires, fans were spoiled with a selection of new and returning franchises. Somewhere in between the expensive and ambitious releases, Dink Smallwood was brewing. A modest yet heartfelt RPG game by the independent Robinson Technology studio. 20 years later, the inconspicuous world filled with deadly pillbugs and strange machines that don't belong there is being rediscovered by a new generation of gamers and returning fans seeking their gaming roots through nostalgia. For the creator, Seth Robinson, it was also a means to fulfill his dream of creating a graphical adventure. He had created a series of BBS door games back in the late 80s, online text adventures connecting dozens of players in a single virtual environment. This is how the immensely popular Legend of the Red Dragon came into existence, but this story is better left to the original author.
The idea of Legend of the Red Dragon is really about getting people to log on and play the game once a day, every day, for about 5-10 minutes. So it's very different from when you play Final Fantasy. They want you to just play it forever. You know, you sit down, you play 50 hours, you get up, you're done. With Legend of the Red Dragon, you have turns and you use your turns and then you're done and you need to come back. And so the whole design is based around getting people to call your BBS and come back every day. What this game was about was you would fight and collect money, upgrade your stuff, and then also fight real players.
The success can be attributed to Seth's unique sense of humor rather than the game itself, which proved key to getting players hooked on the text adventure. Rich descriptions and funny, oftentimes Monty Python-esque situations made it stand out from the crowd.
I think what made that game different, because there were a lot of games like that had the same idea, fight, raise your stats. But I started putting in weird stuff like flirting with the barmaid, and then I put myself in the game for no good reason. I just played the game last week. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is in it. There was some horrible stuff. If you go back and play it, there's so many different little like random stories, and you don't have graphics. So you have to kind of grab people with the text. It's pretty crazy, but there's a lot of variety and a lot of flavor. That style of writing strange text really worked well for BBS games, and so I think, I try to always do that, and that you'll see later in Dink, I think.
The popularity of Lord turned out to be extremely lucrative. Every BBS owner wanted their own game server to attract new users. For Seth, this proved to be a goldmine. While it was free to play for users, the server code wasn't free to set up. A system operator was required to purchase a copy of Legend of the Red Dragon.
Legend of the Red Dragon made a lot of cash. It made a lot more than Dink ever did. Dink didn't make that much, but actually Legend of the Red Dragon did very well, and that's when I got like a machine to take credit cards and talk to the bank, and the lady from the bank came into my room, looked around. I was like, what is going on here? It was, a messy room. But eventually they let me take credit cards, and I had to start the company for that reason, mostly. And then when Dink came along, I already had stuff set up, so I could already take orders over the phone and stuff like that.
All good things must come to an end though. Evolving technology and the rise of graphically advanced home computers signaled change.
I think I made 3 BBS games, and then BBSs were dying. And I wanted so badly to do an RPG and make something with real graphics. That's when I started to work on Dink.
Robinson Technologies found itself in a comfortable position. The tiny studio, consisting of no more than a few pair of hands, unburdened by publisher pressures, had free rein over creating their dream game. Legend of the Red Dragon's success also gave them financial security, meaning no unnecessary funding woes. Dink Smallwood was released late 1997, and even then it was hard to take it too seriously. The hero, titular Dink, was a pig farmer living with his mother in the small town of Stonebrook. Here, mocked by his fellow townsmen, including but not limited to the Malfoy-like Milder, he dreams of becoming a real adventurer. And in a strange and painful twist of events, his wish comes through when his mother dies in a house fire, and he is forced into a life of adventure and heroism. And even though the description fits a more mature and melancholic quest, Dink's story was instilled in Seth's typical light-hearted tone. As in other games of the genre, the hero could interact with on-screen objects, either via looking at them, talking to them, or in this case, punching them. Each of the options was accompanied by a cheeky description in which the hero tries his best to rationalize the player's actions. The game encouraged players to hit people, wardrobes or animals just to see how they would react. When punched, ducks, which the game is curiously enamored with, would become instantly decapitated and run around the screen with comically over-exaggerated blood gushing out of their heads. Some NPCs would laugh off our puny attempts at violence as jokes, while others retorted by fighting fire with fire.
Seth infused his personality into the game. He just shoved all his personality into that little game, and it shows through all the writing. The idea that when you feed your pigs, you can punch and kill them before you feed them. You can kill Ethel's duck. You can kill every duck. You can there was a lot of humor and care crafted into the story and the characters.
The authors knew that they would not create the next Ultima or Diablo, so they fought with their strongest weapon, an absurd sense of humor, although lack of experience in proper game development caught up with them eventually. The story was made up on the fly with no regard for common sense and without even a script draft. As with many other startups before and since, the team lacked a basic company structure.
There was maybe one page of text, and Justin would draw. I think we released some, maybe he released some artwork, pencil drawings and things, and he had lots of pencil drawings of things, but there was no story with those things. Just here's an island, here's this, here's a goblin king, okay. And I worked those into the story mostly, just later on the fly. This is a horrible way to make an RPG.
It also turned out that accepting pre-orders for Dink Smallwood was a mistake. The heavy burden of gamer expectations, people who already paid for the game and wanted to play it, was taking its toll. To make matters worse, production delays and dwindling budget forced the creator to undertake a move which he personally does not consider one of his finest moments.
We were behind schedule by a couple of months, and we had sold pre-orders. And there was a lot of stress. I was really feeling it. I need to finish this. People are waiting. This is my credibility on the line. I have to finish it. And it was just kind of a death march for the last couple of days and weeks. And everyone else was kind of gone for whatever reason. People in the game industry always say the last 10% is 90% of the game. And it's so true. And in my case, I didn't really do the whole 90% that was left, but could be one. And it almost made sense. I would say the last 30% of the game was made in the last 2 weeks of development. And the development was a year or two, if you count all the artwork.
To make the 1997 deadline viable, the author decided to try an unprecedented move, but one which was fully consistent with the humorous nature of the project. Seth rushed to finalize most of the plot threads and hastily added an ending in which he inserted himself as the final boss, reusing Dink's character model but replacing his head with his own picture. He didn't really have any other boss models ready for use in this segment. Technically, the game was ready and completable, but most of the plot made very little sense. And so a big chunk of Dink's playability came not from its plot twists, as there weren't really any, but its inspirations. It's no secret that the studio was heavily inspired by the comedic tone of the Monkey Island adventure game series, and a lot of gameplay elements, including screen scrolls and the combat system, were envisioned based on Nintendo's Legend of Zelda. Even some of the game's rooms look like they're lifted directly from Link's Adventure. Even though Seth wanted the graphics to be top-down, just like in that game, the graphics artist insisted on a much more attractive isometric view, which created issues with the collision system.
Yeah, I wanted to do something easy on the programming side for collision, because collision detection in RPGs is really important when you're swinging your sword, and Justin comes at it from a different view of, I want it to look good. I don't care how it plays, I want it to look good. I mean, well, maybe he does, but as an artist, he's going to put more focus on the visuals. He just sent me the art and said, this is how I want it to look. And I said, oh man, how am I supposed to, make that top down? It doesn't work. It looks bad. So we just did it. And then I had to hack in that weird pixel perfect collision that goes around rocks and stuff. It would have been much easier if I just had squares.
In the end, Dink never repeated Legend of the Red Dragon's success, despite a publishing company contacting the studio and making a deal to distribute the game in Scandinavia. The adventure sold below the low expectations, and this wasn't the only problem the studio was facing. It turned out that one of the subcontractors had provided them with unlicensed music.
The first version of the CD, if you look at the back, it says, additional music by Shari White. This Shari White person gave us some audio, which later we found out was from the game Warcraft. I don't know why she gave it to me. The weird thing is, she was a real musician, and I was sending email to her real email address from her website, and her website is gone. I can't find it. The whole thing was bizarre because I don't know why she would do that. And yeah, I talked to Blizzard's legal team, and I told them, I said, look, you don't know me, but I accidentally used your music. Is it okay if I just sell these and the next version, we won't, include your music? And I'll include a patch on disk that patches it out. And they said, who are you? Okay, yeah. And they gave me no problems.
In the end though, even in its patched state, Dink Smallwood did not sell very well. On the contrary, the developer estimates that in a best case scenario, the game broke even, with about 8,000 copies sold.
When you're an indie dev, that's kind of a success. If you just pay for the time, it lets you keep doing it and working on the next thing. But some people I've talked to later say, oh man, you made so much money off Dink, didn't you? What? No one said that. I didn't say that.
It was clear that manufacturing more discs would be uneconomic, and with digital distribution still non-existent, the company decided to stop selling the game once the initial batch ran its course. While it should have been the end, it proved to be a real beginning for Dink Smallwood. The game still had one trick up its sleeve: demods or modification support, very uncommon in video games of that era. The studio decided to officially release the game online as a freeware product in late 1999, and Dink saw a surprising resurgence, fueled by dozens of video game magazines from around the world featuring the full version of the game on their cover CDs, mods included.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Polish gaming magazine Gambler. I don't read Polish, but what they decided to do was they saw Dink Smallwood was free, and they had this free game that they can give to their customers, and they wanted to give them demods too. So they contacted everyone in the community and said, "Hey, can we include your demods on our disc?" And it's like, "Sure." And then so for payment of our demods, they sent us all a magazine that at least I can't read, and the disc as well of Dink Smallwood demods and various other demos. And so I think that really helped continue that. It really helped save the community.
Suddenly, Dink was a hot topic all over the internet. A full version of an RPG available for free was impressive in its own rights, but the ability to create and download new adventures made by other players gave gamers almost unlimited possibilities to experience it.
So this is called Dink Smallwood.
Dink Smallwood.
Dink Smallwood. And you're this sort of happy-go-lucky guy, not very tough or adventurous anyway, but the forests are filled with evil monsters. Yeah. I got some pig's feed, so now I have to feed the pigs. I have to remember how to do that. Oh, that's how you punch the pigs. We don't want to punch the pig.
Punch the pig.
No, you hurt
Why
them.
not?
Because you hurt the pigs if you punch them.
You don't eat bacon? You don't eat bacon? Oh my God! You didn't just hurt it, you killed it.
Well, that's your attack. You have a punch attack and...
Kill it again!
No!
This wasn't the first time Robinson Technologies included mod support in their games, as the concept was lifted directly from the BBS games. Red Dragon also supported mods in the form of modules, which helped boost its popularity. Modding allowed system operators to easily expand the game by adding their own snippets of code to it. Dink's D-mods were far more sophisticated, allowing players not only to expand the game with new features, but also build brand new adventures. The language, Dink C, was so complicated and powerful that it allowed for creation of not only stories set in the same universe, but whole new games of completely different genres. The complexity of the scripting language also meant that many of the creations were rather low quality, but over the years many impressive, ambitious projects cropped up, some of them so expansive they made the original game look like a simple engine tech demo. This ability to modify the game was what drew in Dan Walma, the creator of the Dink network. This 20-year-old pig farmer community still thrives even to this day. There are over 300 new adventures available to download from the website, with the latest released just a few days ago.
You can bring your girlfriend along too. Oh, I'm sorry. I must stop making such bold assumptions. I mean that whore that was with you upstairs.
There was an alternative lives column by Michael Wolf. He was like one of the editors of PC Gamer. He wrote about how Dink Smallwood was going to revolutionize PC gaming because it had this modding support and this like very impressive stuff. And then like that really tapped into like what was like 14-year-old Dan, because it was like I get to create my own video games. Like this is something I wanted to do forever. I tried to do Doom mods. I couldn't figure those out at all. Like I just Doom wads. Like I just failed at doing that. So I tried Dink Smallwood, and then it just kind of began from there.
Of course, Dink was not the first, nor the last game with a devoted community. What is unusual is how active it remains in more than 2 decades since its release. Even though the production of D-mods saw its high and low phases, some years have seen tens, other just a few mods released, many small events led to the steadfast activity within the community. First, there was the 2003 source code release, where the game's programming was released under a free license, which led to the creation of the Free Dink project, which in turn meant bug fixes and modernization of the game. This included a lot of involvement from Dan Walma. In 2011, the HD version of Dink Smallwood was released by the original studio for smartphones, tablets and PCs. Sold at a nominal price of just a few dollars at first, it was later open-sourced in 2017 for Dink's 20th anniversary. The HD release was a real revolution due to a full integration with the Dink network, which allowed for browsing, downloading and running D-mods directly from the game. This option was even available on mobile devices, which made it incredibly simple to find and play brand new adventures, which in turn generated more interest in the title.
Like you look at like Morrowind mods, how many humorous Morrowind mods are there, or Skyrim mods, or Doom mods? And there's really not that many. Like there's like a lot of the mods are, oh, I made a new weapon. Oh, I made the grass look really pretty. And with Dink Smallwood, you kind of had to create your own story. And the way that Seth created it, you also kind of had to create your own jokes. Like some of us tried to create like, serious D mods, but that never really worked. like really like you had to have a sense of humor, and I think that helped to make it more popular.
And the strongest testimony to how important Dink Smallwood had become to some of the members of the community has to be Tim Maurer, or Coco Monkey as he was known on the Dink network. The man behind the primate created a few simple mods back in the 90s, after which he disappeared for years. He returned in 2013, older, wiser, and more experienced. Out of nostalgia, but also to summarize his life up to this point, he embarked on a therapeutic quest to play, test, and review every single DMod ever created. A project of this scale took over 2 years of his life, during which he wrote over 800 pages of text describing every single mod, no matter how small. His humorous yet insightful analytical tests won the players over and yet again breathed new life into the game. They also re-energized Dan, who had left the network for some time.
Basically, a few years ago, I met my wife, and then I was really trying to get away from doing Dink stuff just because it became almost like an obsession, where I would check the website every day. I would check the posts. I would do like just it was like a chore every day. And so I tried to step back from that, and I succeeded a bit. I succeeded for several years. But then like there's always part of me, like I'd check on it like every once in a while, like on New Year's Eve, I would check on it, and like every once in a while I'd see how things were going, and things were going okay. And then like what really brought me back was one of the old school Dinkers from 1998, Tim Maurer. He created Crazy Old Tim Plays All the D-Mods, a series of articles about him playing every D-Mod he ever made. I was like, I want to see what he wrote about my stuff. So I started reading it, and I realized like this was like, it like kind of like tapped into all feelings of nostalgia and all feelings of like, wow, this is why I was with this community for so long, because like we did have a shared experience there, and it was really fun and powerful. And then like had to revisit that, especially to revisit that through like the skill of his writing. It kind of sucked me back in, and I've kind of been around ever since. Like I'll like leave for a few weeks and I'll come back, but like it's not like years at a time as it was like a few years ago.
Unfortunately, in 2015, soon after Coco Monkey completed his quest, gamers were left devastated by the news of his sudden passing, leaving in his wake an unfillable void. To celebrate his accomplishments in the community, and with his parents' approval, a 2-volume book series was released at the turn of 2017 and 2018. It collects all of Tim's reviews, includes historical notes, as well as extra comments on the community at important points in time. 800 pages, honoring one of the most improbable subjects for a book.
Like, because I was working, like I asked the community like in the forum a few months after he passed that, hey, what if we did this? And like they said like, yeah, that seems okay. Like that seems like I would buy a copy, that type of stuff. But then, as I started like compiling the book, I was like, rereading all the articles. You can almost kind of see like you can see like hints, like about like where this might turn, and it was upsetting, really. And then like once I got the book ready, like I had like a first draft ready within a few months, and it's like it looked okay. I like waited like a year to contact his parents, because like it's just like I didn't want to make it seem like I was profiting off of the tragedy at all, because there is no profit coming to me at all. It's sold at cost effectively, and like it isn't like it's selling all that many copies anyway. But I didn't want to I didn't want to appear as some internet huckster, like, hey, your son died. Can we create a book from his stuff? But they've been really great. Like they saw right away, like, this was, we're creating this because we loved him. And they were supportive. And I'm really thankful for their support, because people like you and people all around the world can, have this on their bookshelves and can see, they can have this as a reminder of their experiences over the last 20 years.
The history of Dink Smallwood is far from over, even though the community seems to be experiencing a quiet period again. Dan and Seth are secretly working on another small Dink Smallwood breakthrough, although it might be a tad too early to spill the beans. Seth Robinson still works with video games. In 2012, in association with Hamumu Software, he co-developed Growtopia, an incredibly popular sandbox MMO. The game was so successful that in 2017, the franchise was purchased by Ubisoft. Seth's future plans remain a mystery. Today, the Dink network hosts 376 mods.